hit the record button right now. And I don't know if you all get the notice, but it does say it is recording. All right, so welcome to Basic Canvas. And today we're going to be covering the very basics of the Canvas learning management system. The idea for this is for those people who need an orientation to this new learning management system as we're transitioning from Moodle. This will not go into a lot of detail or depth on many things. We're going to cover a lot of things at a very surface level. I think of this as the first training for Canvas, and it's really for people who opened up Canvas and then you just sit there looking at this and you go, what do I do now? So if that's where you are, this is the right place for you. If that's not where you are, well, grab a cup of coffee and a book, and maybe you can catch something as we go through this. Something we're trying out today, this was a suggestion that Jenna offered us as she was researching things. We're going to have a shared document that Sonia has created. She'll post a link to that in the chat. And if you have a question during this session or even after, we will monitor that shared document through the day, and then we'll respond if it's during the session, near the end of the session, or we'll break in as needed. And we'll also try to respond with perhaps a link to a video or a link to some Canvas training, or just a few words of encouragement and advice in the document, so that that shared document can serve as a supplement to this video recording that we're doing. So Sonia, if you have that ready, go ahead and put that into the chat at your computer.
I will, as soon as my Google link will allow me. It's switched to a different Google as soon as I logged in here. So give me about 5 seconds and I'll have that for you.
No problem at all. So while she is working on that, I'm going to turn my video off and I'm going to share my screen so I can walk us through this. And I'm going to stop my video now. And feel free to keep your video on or turn it off. If you turn it off, I find it makes a little more room. All right. So here we are in Canvas. This is what you will see as you first log in. Now, you're going to notice down at the bottom that there's this purple bar saying, I am currently acting as Brian Teacher Newberry. And that's because we don't yet have it set up so that we have a sign-on for me other than the single sign-on. So when I log into Canvas, I log in as an administrator. And as an administrator, I have a few extra menus and things that can be a little confusing. So I created a teacher account, which has only teacher permissions, but I can't log into that because when I log in and single sign in, it gives me administrator access. So now what I do is I'm impersonating myself. And that's why you see that purple bar down at the bottom. Right here is the stop acting as me, and then I would have to be my actual self, which nobody wants to see anyway. So what we're seeing right now is the Canvas dashboard. This is what you're going to see as you log into Canvas for the first time or any time. And this is also what your students are going to see. In the Canvas dashboard, right now, the default is what's known as the card view. And you can see that any course that I have that is published, if you think about published, it's the same thing as visible to us in Moodle versus hidden. I don't know if you know that, but often when you enter your course for the first time as a teacher, your course is not available to students. To them, it is hidden. So if a course isn't published, it will be down here. And that means that only you can see it. No students would be able to see that course. Here, these are courses that are published and visible to anyone who's in the roster. Now, just for fun, you can see anytime you have 3 dots in Canvas, it is a clickable contextual menu. And the thing that you can do in this is you can change the name. You can give it a nickname that's visible only to you. And you can change the color of the little card to something that is pleasing to you. You notice that right up here in this top right-hand corner, also space, you need to look for these 3 dots. This allows you to change your dashboard view. If I had more than one course, I could switch between the card view, which is what we're seeing now, and a list view, which is helpful if you have a lot of classes. And you could also change to recent activity and so on. I'm not going to mess with that right now. What I want to start with is I just want to get everyone oriented to what Canvas has to offer. So first of all, on this left-hand side is what I'm going to call the global menu. You can see our clock tower in the top, account, dashboard, which is where we are, courses, calendar, inbox, history, commons, studio, and help. Let's take a look at each of those in turn. In the account, just like you might see in Google, this is where you can modify things like your notifications. You're going to want to know that this exists because as Canvas is set up by default, it's set up to send you notifications for just about everything. And most people that I've talked to don't like to have an email happen every time a student submits an assignment or so on. So know that when you get tired of that, you can change that in your profile by going to the settings. Next thing is ePortfolios. We do have an ePortfolio set up. I haven't played with it all. Sonia has played with it a bit more. This is something that if you're wanting to do, we can explore at another time. Shared content is the next thing. Shared content is something that is different from Moodle to Canvas. In Moodle, the sharing of content is kind of baked into the very operating system of the learning management system. And there are multiple ways to share content. You can share whole courses, you can share modules, you can share files, and you can share these things and be shared with from beyond Jackson College. There is in the Commons, which we'll get to later, content that can be shared across almost all Canvas users worldwide, I suspect. So that the idea of sharing and receiving shared content is something that is new to us in Canvas compared to Moodle. Here is a QR code for mobile login. So if you're wanting to have people use the mobile app and so on, here is a way to do a QR enabled sharing of that. I'm going to cancel that. And global announcements. Unlike Moodle, as far as I know, I've never found a place for a global announcement in Moodle where someone with an administrator access can send an announcement to everyone. Canvas has that feature and it stores, I guess, global announcements for you to see that. Right now, there are none, but another place that you'll see global announcements is in your dashboard. When you come to the dashboard, a lot of times if there are global announcements or announcements to you, you'll see them in your dashboard. I also think there are some other places to see them. I have not played with it enough to know. But that's your account. You can also log out there. So the dashboard we've already looked at, that's kind of your landing space in Canvas. That's where you're going to show up when you enter into Canvas. Next is a courses view. Here you can see all of your courses and your published courses. The calendar, a lot like Moodle. If you have a course, you'll see that course over here. Here's my practice course. If you have due dates on your assignments, they will show up in this calendar. And like Moodle, if you click on an assignment in a class in your calendar and drag it to a different date, it will actually change the due date in the class. So that's kind of a nice feature. I'm glad to see that is also here because a lot of people use that in Moodle. The inbox is just like in Moodle. We have the in Moodle messaging system. Canvas has an in Canvas messaging system. Right now, nobody likes me, so I don't have any conversations to look at, but this is a place you're going to want to check because students will make use of that in LMS messaging to contact you. History, I don't have a history because this isn't really me, but this shows you the recent activity that you've done. Sonia had a good use case for this. She was, as happens to all of us, working on a lot of things, came back the next day, it was like, where did I leave off? She was able to check the history and find a point at which she recognized, oh yeah, I was working on that, clicked into it, and was able to re-engage with the work that she was doing. Commons is that sharing space that I was talking about. Every time that you go in here, since you're leaving a Jackson College controlled space and moving to a space that is shared with others, you do have to authorize that. And in this Commons, you're going to find access to all sorts of things. For example, Sonia has been working on some navigation templates. Those she has shared with everyone here at Jackson College. And you can see that there is a lot of featured content and a lot of content. And this has nothing to do with Jackson College. These are shared by other users. And you can play around with that. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. There is a search function. You can also sort it: most relevant, latest, most favored, most downloaded. And then there is a filtering feature, which I find is very useful. For example, if I'm looking for something like a template, I can click on that and it's going to filter my view and show me the templates that are available for sharing, including those that Sonia has shared. And she'll be doing a lot more sharing of templates as we create new templates or modify templates for use in your courses. Of course, then you can see textbooks and other filtering options available to you, and that's in the Commons. The Studio is an add-on. This is something that we're paying extra for, so I hope you enjoy it. This is a in LMS media production environment. You can record screen capture videos and videos of your own. You can combine those with other elements and then use those in your courses. You can also share them and use them between courses. So this is a bonus. This is an expansion of the capabilities that we had in Moodle. It comes close to replicating Camtasia, but instead of being a separate function outside of the LMS, this one is connected to the LMS. Look forward to learning more about that in the future. And the last thing in our global menu is the help button. And this help button is configurable. In fact, Sonia has been working to configure it. So we have customized this for our use. Based on our research, we've decided that students need to know their success navigator. Evidently, and I don't know if you guys have found this, but students ask this question a lot. How do I find out who is my navigator? Or how do I get to my advisor? Even though this is information that's available a lot of places, we send emails to them all the time. We recognize that if we can present a link to students that gets them to this frequently asked question, it's a good idea. So we put that right here in the help that's available in every person's account, in every class, and so on. Jackson College Library, we've all been there. It's a great place. It has a lot of stuff that helps students. So we've created this link here for them. You'll remember that a year ago or so, up to a year ago or so, we had a link in every JetNet course to the Jackson Library. That was a plugin that was no longer supported after a certain time, and it went away or it stopped having its functionality. We don't have the full functionality of that plugin, but we do have this link to the library. Students will be able to access that from any course. Here's a quick link to reporting a problem to the Solution Center. Another thing, where do I go for help? The Solution Center is the place. Now, here's the one thing that's a problem with this, but it's not something that we have to worry about because we have other ways of getting students to the Solution Center. But one of the primary things that students need the Solution Center for is help. I can't log in. My account is not working. Well, if they can log into Canvas and to get to this link, that's not the problem that the Solution Center needs to help them with. But they can help them with things like getting access to Office 365 documentation or learning how to use their email and so on. Hopefully we'll never need this COVID-19 Canvas resources link, and it can go away at some time, but just in case, here's the welcome tour, which you may have noticed when you log in, a little pop-up panel comes up with a welcome tour giving you an orientation. I recommend going through that if you haven't. And then here are release notes that you will see that may or may not be useful to you. They're at the bottom and so on. You'll see that this space will change over time. We'll be adding perhaps things like a submit a request for help and so on for Sonia and I and other things as we configure them. All right,
Brian, real quick,
yeah.
are those updates, are those institution specific or are they just Canvas specific?
Many of them are Canvas specific.
But will we see like Jackson College updates in there, like specific to our institution or no?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, as far as I know and can tell, all of these are Canvas specific. Sonia, do you happen to know if we will see institution specific things in this space? Sonia has more experience using Canvas than I do. I don't know if she's talking. She's muted. Well, let's go on. She can maybe answer that. Oh,
Sorry,
there she
I'm
is.
having a side conversation with Jenna about the help
Ah,
menu. Could you repeat the question, please?
oh, so in this, all these release notes, is that always going to be Canvas wide or Canvas specific, or will there be any release note information that's specific to Jackson College in this space?
The release notes down in that left bottom area of the menu will be Canvas specific. The Jackson College specific will show up on your dashboard.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's all we need to know for now about this global menu, which is on the left-hand side and will pretty much always be on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and go to the dashboard. And then here, I'm going to click into a class. And here is my practice course. All right, so in the practice course, I want to give you an orientation here. Notice that the global menu remains right here. Then I have this course menu right here. Now notice in this course menu, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. In fact, there's too much stuff. You really don't want your students to see all of this stuff. And in fact, you'll see that there is an eyeball with a cross line through it, meaning that students will not see this in their view. And to show you that, I want to go up here to student view. If you haven't found this, it's really nice. We had this in Moodle, it was a little bit buried. This one's a little easier to work. So students will see your course like this. They'll see only these menus. Here's what we've done. We have configured the menu right now to have a restricted number of items that students will see. The other thing that Canvas does is that if there is a menu item that they would normally see, for example, announcements, but if there is nothing in that item or nothing that the student can create in that item, it is hidden by default. This announcements, for example, is only going to be available to students after you make the first announcements. And you still have the ability as the teacher to turn any of these on. So right now, assignments, discussions, quizzes, big blue button, collaborations, pages, files, outcomes, and rubrics, those are all hidden from students. The reason we've hidden these things is because either we don't expect them to be used in every class, therefore they don't need to be visible. And the second reason is things like assignments, discussions, quizzes, you don't need to make those visible to students in the menu if you don't want to, because those are visible to students in the module view. And the module view is the thing that students will be interacting with the most. Same thing for pages. That's something that Canvas experts say you really don't need to turn that on for students. They will access all of that through the module view. So let's take a look at this space again. Again, global menu, course specific menu. In the middle, we have the course content area. This is where you will be building materials for your students. This is also where students will access the materials that you build for them. There's an edit button, the 3 dots, meaning there's a menu behind here, the student view, an immersive reader that is an assistive technology that some people will find useful. And then over here on the right-hand side are some course-specific tools that you will have that students won't have that you'll need to know about. For example, import existing content. This is just like in Moodle, where if you went to the little gear and to that third column, you could do an import. This is how you import content from a course that you have access to into an empty shell, just like you will do at the beginning of the term. So it's right there. Import from Commons, similar to importing from existing courses here. Import from Commons is a way to import content that you find in the Commons into the course shell that you are. Here's an interesting one, which is choose home page. I want to spend a little more time on that one. So when you have Canvas, you can configure it to have 5 different options for what students see in this content area from the very first moment they enter your class. So let's take a look at those. So I click on choose home page. My first option here is course activity stream. So if I save that, now I'm seeing just in my content area, the course activity. When I was looking at this option and trying to figure out when would you use this, I found a use case that was kind of interesting. And that would be if you have a course that is set up as a shared space, but it's not really a course. You might have it set up like a user, like the student the student shared forum or the faculty forum. Instead of having the entire class visible, you might want to just share recent activity so that the most recent stuff that's happening in the discussions and so on show up right here so you can click right into them. This is not a homepage that I think would necessarily be useful in a regular class. I wouldn't recommend it in most cases. It doesn't really deny you functionality because you still have the modules. Students will click into the modules and be able to interact with the course. But I'm not sure that this is the best homepage choice for a typical class, but know that it's there. If you find a use case for it, use it and let me know. The next one is the pages front page. So if I click into that, this brings us to whatever page that I have set up as my home page. And this is a partial version of a template that Kim Salinas has found. I think she's implementing in one of her classes. Sonia has been modifying it, and I modified this one. One of the things that I find about most templates that I've seen, they take up a lot of this top space in the content area for a banner that doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose. And I worry about that because when students view this, many of them are going to be viewing it on a small screen via the app. And if you take up quite a bit of space with a banner, that means they have to scroll more to find the stuff that we actually want them to see. So I tend to remove that banner or reduce it to a very small height so that we don't have those kinds of things going on. So in this particular template, and you're free to use a template like this, there's a space here for information, a little bit about orienting to the orientations that our orientation process uses. You could provide a little bit of information about here's how to get started in this class and so on. And then in this particular template, you have links to the various modules in the course. So you can see this isn't exactly like the tiles view, but it's kind of approaching the functionality, which gives students the opportunity to click into any module section that they want to. So, you'd want them to click start here. They do that, and it brings them to the top. Here is the start here thing, the student resources. Now, it doesn't hide the other modules. The tiles view does a little bit better job of restricting that, but it does bring them to it puts at the top the module that they clicked into. While you're here, I want you to notice the student resources. This is a feature that we're going to be adding to all empty course shells by default. Student resources are those things that many instructors have already been putting into their courses, and the decision was made to offer this institution-wide in every class. And those are some resource links that are not necessarily academic focused. They're more about supporting the student. This has also been described as wraparound resources. So we've identified some resources that are frequently needed by students or that we definitely want them to have seen. In fact, we may even want to document that they've seen them. So here we have a link to their academic advising, the navigators. Here's the student handbook. Here is the diversity, equity, and belonging page. Here's the library. Here's tutoring. Here is the Center for Student Success Office of Disabilities. This helps students who have documented disabilities access those services as they need them. And then this is a brand new feature that I'm really happy about, and that is a student resources page. This is a brand new page on the Jackson College website. I don't know if anyone else has had this frustration, but you type you want to find the navigator. So if you type navigator up here, you get a lot of results, but the first few are not necessarily the ones that you need to get to a navigator. Yeah, the same is true for many of the other things that students search for. So Ashley Banks has created this aggregation page, which is a page that aggregates all of those resources that are the wraparound resources that students need. So now search for student resources, and you'll find the advising, athletics, CSS, the dental clinic, Oasis Center, the library, health clinic, diversity, equity, belonging, solution center, the handbook, tutoring link, and then the file portal right here at their fingertips. So we've linked that into our module right here. So it's right there. The other thing that we've added, and this will continue to evolve, and that is a student success quiz, which basically asks students to confirm that they have seen the student resources link and they've seen the handbook, et cetera, in that class. All right, so back to modules view. All right.
Brian,
Yes.
Brian, I'm sorry, this is, all of that was under that student resources
resources.
links,
Correct.
but there's
Those-
nothing on the left side to get you directly there. You have to go to modules and then student resources, is that right?
That is correct for now, yes. And an
Okay.
option that we have considered is trying to find a way to put that link in here. The problem being is that that would have to, as I understand it, that would have to be done with a CSS hack, a cascading style sheet hack, which does not persist anytime Canvas makes an update, and they make updates on a monthly basis, which means that we'd have to constantly be on top of putting that in there. It's a possibility there. We might also add it here to the help.
It is in the help.
Oh, it is. Which is, which one is it?
Oh, I believe I thought I put it in the help.
Oh,
That was,
we'll get it in the help. All right, back to our tour. We were at the home page, and I want to go back to the home page because what we were looking at were our choose homepage options. So the next one is, oh, well, you know what? Let's change our page from the homepage template that I had to another one. So here is another homepage option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my three dots next to the page that is my front page. You can see that little gray thing tells me that's the one that's my active front page. I'm going to remove that as my front page. Don't worry, that doesn't remove the page, it just removes the association. And I'm going to choose this one as my home page. So now that I have that there. Now, here's a weird thing. When I go to home, we're going to see the next option, which is, this is the module view as homepage. When I remove the association, it reverts to the module view. And I'll speak now about the module view. This is a very common Canvas convention. Many institutions make this module view the home page by default, because this is where students need to be most of the time. I'm not sure that's the best choice for the first few days of a course, especially a totally asynchronous online class with students who have never really been in online classes. This may be a little overwhelming. We may have better options, but I can choose a home page and I can choose my pages again, save it. And here's another option for a home page. This is just, this is for my philosophy of philosophy class. I have the thinking man and some text describing the class. And then I have a little bit about the instructor of the class right here. And I really think as an online class, we should be putting something about the instructor in the first things that the students see, because when you walk into a classroom, you typically see the instructor and you know, there's the person who's going to guide me on this adventure. In an online class, you walk in, metaphorically speaking, into a space that you immediately lose connection to people. And I think it's important, especially for the traditional students, those coming right out of high school, that we give them the connection to the instructor as an instructional presence. And we do that with introduction right there, the first thing you see. Now, I might not necessarily keep this as my home page for the entire course. As we've seen, I can have this as my home page. And then the next, after say the first week, I might choose this one, course modules, as my home page by default, so that when students enter the class, they're going to see the modules just as if they had clicked on modules. And for those of us used to Moodle, this is just like Moodle, isn't it? We have module, 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 just like in Moodle we thought of them as weeks, but they could also be thought of as topics or modules. And they're arranged in the order that we want students to go through them. So this is a very usable home page, especially after the first week of class. Here's another choice. Oh, I have another template. I've just been playing with templates because they give you a lot of features. Let me change this template one last time to show you another template. This one is a modification of the modern template that was regarded very highly by many people in the gallery walk that we did. So if I use that as my front page and I go home, it'll revert to module. I choose my home page and choose pages. And this is a modification of the modern template that we saw there. You know, I've got the banner. I've reduced it in size because one of the problems I saw with that is that banner took up a huge amount of space. Here are the button shapes, and I've chosen to make my buttons about accessibility, advising, and the solution center, because again, those are the things that we want our students to do. And then I have an instructor photo. There I am next to Lake Superior. Hopefully not scaring students, although I look at that picture and I find it a little scary. And you know, just to introduce myself and put myself as an instructional presence in the class in that way. Very easy to do. So let's go back to choosing our home page. We have the modules we've already looked at, and here is an assignments list. Clicking save. This view shows students the actual assignments grouped by the groupings that they are in the gradebook. And I've talked to a couple of people about this. In fact, my wife uses Canvas at her institution, and this is the view she favors because she teaches all totally face-to-face classes. And she doesn't find that students need the module view because she has nothing in the course that they need other than the gradebook and the assignments. So this gives her a way to present to students the assignments in the class. She does them in the order in which they are due. And each assignment has, you know, rubrics and instructions and so on. They do these things in the Chem lab and, you know, at home, they prep for tests and so on. But this is a fine view if you're teaching a totally face-to-face class. And all you have in the class are the assignments and the gradebook. For example, this would be a view that I might use if I was teaching one of a CEP classes where you just have assignments and the gradebook and so on. Choose homepage. We have one more option left, and that is the syllabus. Click save. The syllabus in Canvas is a different animal. The syllabus is a syllabus. You can put all of the usual things you put in the syllabus, but it is also a tool in Canvas. You can see right here, it's in the menu, so that any assignment that you have in the course is going to be linked to the syllabus in this course summary. So it's a little bit different from how we currently think of a syllabus, because our current syllabi are static documents. This is a living document, and if you make changes, you're gonna see those changes represented here. Now, I don't have any due dates on these assignments, but if I did, they would be shown here. And if you change a due date, add assignment, this is constantly going to be changing. This is a cool tool, but it also presents us a dilemma, and we're working on solving that. And that is, currently, we take our static syllabus document, you upload it to a syllabus archive where it's then publicly available so that students who are transferring to another institution can access that syllabus to get transfer credit. There's no easy way to do that with this dynamic document yet that we found. Karen Hopter's working on trying to find us a solution. We'll have updates as that happens, but just know that your syllabus, you can edit it, you can add things, you can take things out, but it also has these dynamic inclusions that Canvas builds in. All right, so back to my homepage. Here I am, choose homepage. The module view is the one I'm going to choose. That's the one that we'll probably use a lot here. Looks a lot like Moodle, and it's very usable. All right, so course content area, course tools, back to course tools. Here you have a button for a new announcement. So if I want to create an announcement, I go there. Title. Here I have my rich content editor, just like we had in Moodle. You'll find that this is much the same. You put anything in here. You can change fonts, you can bold, italic, underline, hyperlink, add images, add videos and media, add documents. Here's a integration with Office 365. There are various apps or plugins, some text formatting, etc., etc. It's all pretty much the same as Moodle. If you're one who likes to hack around with the cascading style sheets or the HTML of a page, you can do that here with this little link right there, full screen and so on. Get rid of that. You notice that there are keyboard shortcuts. You can get those little tutoring there. And then here is the accessibility checker. Recommend that you use that along with other tools, information that you can have here. All right, I'm going to cancel that. I don't really need to make an announcement in this course. Back to my home button. New analytics. I won't have any cool analytics in here. This is a cool tool that you're going to be able to see, a little tour about that. We'll have more about that now. This is a little bit like, if you'll remember, IntelliBoard, which we never got to function the way that we hoped it would. This offers some of that functionality and is built into Canvas. It's a nice tool. Back to home. And then course notifications. Those are the things that are going to be like announcements and due dates and so on in here. You see a lot, I've turned off a lot of notifications by default. A lot of these notifications are on, and you're going to find that annoying when you get a notification for every submission a student makes, or anytime someone comments on a submission. At the discussions, you'll see they're all turned on. You'll want to know about modifying that. Back to the home button. All right, so we started off this little tour looking at menus, and we've looked at a lot of the things that go on here in this center area, the content area. We looked at these course specific tools. You'll see a little feed here that goes on. I want to go through these course menu items one by one really quickly, just to show you what's there, what you need to pay attention to, what you can do with some of them, and so on. So we've really looked at the home page and how you can change that home page to a number of views. We've talked about announcements. We've talked about the syllabus. Here is the grades. Now, grades is like the JetNet gradebook, but it is so different. Doesn't necessarily look different at first, but what they have done in Canvas compared to Moodle is they removed a lot of the functionality of the gradebook in the grade book area, and they put that in the assignments tool. So one of the things that you need to know about thinking in Canvas is practically everything revolves around the concept of the assignment. Everything is an assignment. And if you want to weight your grades, you don't do that in the grade book. You actually have to start that in the assignments, and we'll get to that later. What the grade book does offer you is kind of like the grader view in JetNet. It's a big spreadsheet. Every assignment is there, but you have options on how you view that and sort it and so on. There is a Learning Mastery version gradebook, an individual gradebook. So if you want to see an individual section, if you want to see an individual thing, you can configure that in that way. Back to my gradebook. And let's see. Oh yeah, right over here. I have to go back to here, the grade book there. It kind of remembers your choices. I'm back into here. So that's my views of the grade book. Here I can arrange the grade book. This is kind of a nice feature. I can do it by default. I can do it by assignment name, which I'm not sure that would be useful to me unless I use the naming convention of assignments. I try to use descriptive names, which wouldn't sort alphabetically in a way that would be useful to me anyway, but you might find that useful. Here's one that I think would be useful, and that's you can sort it by due date from either oldest to newest, newest to oldest. You can also do it by points, highest to lowest, and lowest to highest, or by the module view, which I think would also be useful. If I do it by module view, it then arranges these things according to the modules that they are in. So that's a way of sorting. There are filters that you can do by assignment groups, and groups, assignment groups, that's how you do weighting, by example, or modules, statuses, and then there are some other options here that I have not explored. And then you have this actions, import or export, just like in Moodle, you can import and export by spreadsheet type import export. I haven't explored that in great detail. Keyboard shortcuts here, if you want to learn about what you can do to do keyboard shortcuts rather than accessing menus by mouse, you click on that. And then here's a gear that allows you to access some other interesting features, some of which were not available in Moodle. For example, late policies. You can automatically apply a grade for missing submissions. I'm not sure we would want to assign 100% for a missing submission, but here you have that option to set what your missing or empty grade submission would be. You can have a late policy. You can automatically do a deduction by days if you want to, and so on. There's a grade posting policy. That's assignment grades will be visible to students as soon as they're entered. That's the default option, or they're going to be hidden by default, and any grades already posted remain visible, but you choose when each grade is visible to students. And then there's this advanced feature, which I haven't explored very much. The only thing I see right there is allow final grade override, which I think is a little bit of a problem. I don't know if students are going to be happy if we show them a grade book that shows them their running grade, and then at the end we change their final grade in some way that they may not understand. So I'm a little leery of that one, but it's there. So that's the grade book. But you see that unlike in Moodle, we don't have a grade book set up where we do their grouping and weighting and so on. All of that has to be done elsewhere. So back to my course. You see right here, this is the short name for my course, breadcrumb navigation. If I want to go back into the course from my gradebook, I can just click on the short name right there. And here we are. So we've looked at the module view. We're just in grades. People view. This shows us just like the participants list, the people who are in the course. I don't see the messaging system that we had in JetNet yet. I haven't played around with this a lot, but it might be there. Studio. Oh, one thing I should mention, that the order of these menus won't be the same for everyone because you can configure them. We'll get to that later. Studio, we've already looked at. That's that in Canvas media production system. The assignment view. This is a place where you go if you want to do a lot of things. So as I mentioned before, in Canvas thinking, try to think of things as assignments. You can build your entire course right here in the assignments menu or the assignments view. You see here, if I want to create a new assignment, I just hit that plus assignment button, and this brings up a configuration. I'm going to call it assignment example. Here you do your usual things with your instructions and so on. You assign the points that you want to give it. I'm going to say this one's worth 10 points. You can, if you already have groups, you can assign it to a grouping for weighting or for organization. You can determine whether it is graded by percentage, complete, incomplete, points, letter grade, a GPA scale, or not graded. This is different than Moodle thinking. In Moodle thinking, we tended to think of doing how we graded in the grade book, but here it's definitely done in the assignments. One of the things to watch out for is thinking about your grading methodology. Most people tend to think either in percentages or in points, and that's great. You do that by assignment. I would not recommend doing some grades by percentage and some grades by points. That will be more confusing to explain to students. Choose one or the other and stick with it throughout that. You see here, you can click that box if you don't want the assignment to count towards the final grade. Make sure you explain that to students. If you're giving points and you're not counting it to the final grade. I have not yet played with complete, incomplete, letter grade, or GPA scale in determining how those impact the final grade. I haven't played with that yet. I don't know if they will or not. Going down, submission type, you have a lot of options. So you can have no submission. It's just a grade item. For example, if you have a face-to-face class and you give some points for participation, you can make that a no submission. You just enter it in. You can have an online submission where it's a text entry, a URL that a student submits as their submission for the grading, media recordings, a student annotation, which I haven't played with yet, or a file upload, just like we do in assignments in JetNet. You can also have an on-paper version, and that would be if you have a hybrid class or a face-to-face class and students submit a paper to you for grading, or an external tool, which I haven't played with yet, and I don't know how that's going to work, but it's there, so know about it. So typically you're going to have an online text entry or file upload for a typical assignment. Number of attempts, whether it's a group assignment. Peer review seems to be baked in. I haven't played with it, so I don't know how to tell you how to use that yet. and then assign it to, I guess, everyone, probably a group or an individual. Here's where you do the due date, and here's where you make it available. This is just like in Moodle, the restrictions. It's available from until, and you can do that, and you can add additional instruction, additional restrictions to the availability here. If you want, you can notify users that you made a change by clicking that. And then over here, you notice you can cancel, you can save and publish, or you can save. If you just click save, the assignment will be saved, but it will not be visible to students. You must publish an assignment in order for it to be visible to students. And that's the option I'm going to choose here. So that's one example of an assignment. Now I come here, I'm looking at my assignment, I see it's published, I can unpublish it there, I can edit it, I can click on the three dots, I can copy it, share it to Commons. I can define a rubric for it right here, which is a nice feature, very easy to use, or anything else that I might want to do for this. I'm going to go back to assignments now. I'm going to show you another option. I'm going to click on assignment. So that was an assignment, just like we would think. But here, I'm going to make a discussion. I'm going to put it into my class participation and tasks. I'm in the wrong spot, sorry. Forget I said any of that. Erase the last minute or so of this thing. You don't do that in assignments. You build assignments in assignments. You can go to discussions and build discussions just the way you did assignments. So I can click on discussion, configure it, give it the discussion topic, assign it to all sections or post it in all sections, configure it with a variety of options such as anonymous discussions, which most people don't recommend. All of these options and so on, group discussions, etc. All of that, as usual, save and publish. Same thing with quizzes. I can create a quiz here. I see all the quizzes that I have, but I can also create a new quiz, give it a name. I can configure it, have my rich content editor, give the instructions and so on. I have options here. It can be a practice quiz, a graded quiz, a survey, graded or ungraded. Shuffling the answers, time limits, multiple attempts. Here are some options about visibility, which seem to be much simpler in conceptualization than the Moodle versions. I haven't played with it yet to know more about that, showing one question at a time. Here you can give it like a password and access code, filter IP addresses, which I can't imagine it's doing, but it's possible. And then who do you assign it to and so on. Big blue button, just like in JetNet, big blue button. We don't yet have the, well, maybe we do. Do we have the license for this? So the contract for this was still in process. We were not seeing that. Maybe that is in there yet. I haven't played with it yet to see if there are any differences, but it is the big blue button tool from Blindside Networks. Collaborations is not what you might think it is at just the first name. Collaborations are tools like Office 365, Google, and others that you can use to have students working collaboratively on tasks. So it's not an in-Canvas collaborations. It's not where you build groups and so on. It's a way to configure access to other tools like Office 365, which is by default available to our students. Pages are web pages, just like pages in JetNet. Here you can create pages. The interesting thing is that it will give you your home page as the first page, and then to see all pages, you have to click here, view all pages. And that gets us to here, where every page that you have available to you shows up, and you can create new pages here. You have the three dots if you want to share it to Commons. Files. So in JetNet, files are kind of obscured. They're kind of hidden from us. In Canvas, file management is an important thing to understand because they allow sharing very easily between courses. So you have a file area where you can manage your files. You can create your folders here. You can upload new files and so on. By default, it will create some folders for you for template images and uploaded media. You can also do uploads directly to here for use later. Outcomes are an interesting tool. Just like JetNet had a competency framework, Canvas has an outcomes tool. Now, here's an interesting thing. In Canvas, if you want to, as a teacher, create course-specific outcomes, you can do that, and you can align those outcomes with quizzes and assignments and so on, and then track those outcomes in your course. If you're working on a CBE course, which some people will be doing and are doing right now, it's important to know that if you build your outcomes in the course, those will not be trackable outside of your course in order to create a program-specific competency tracking framework. So what that means is, if you're going to be working in the CBE world, you're going to have to create those outcomes to be tracked up a level, not at the course level, but at this sub-account level, so that those competencies can be grouped together by a program to determine whether or not a student has satisfied the competencies for that program. And we'll learn more about this as it goes on and figure that out. But just know that if you're working, I know Jenna, you've been working with those outcomes in your courses. That's great. Those are very usable at the course level, but those won't be trackable up a level to see if it meets a program specific kind of outcome tracking. But it's there, good to know. And then here, all of the rubrics that you create are here. You can get rid of that. I can add rubrics and so on. So if I wanted to add a rubric, there I am. I can just create it on the fly for use in this class. The last menu item that's here is settings, and this is an important menu item because this gives you as the instructor control over a lot of things in your class. For example, the course details, information there. And I'm not sure if, like right now in JetNet, I don't believe at the teacher level you can change the name of your course. If you can in Canvas, please don't, because that's going to confuse a lot of things. We're using our colleague database as a way to build courses, and that will be named according to a convention. And if you change the name, that could mess things up and so on. So don't do that. Time zones, sub-accounts. Don't change your sub-account. These are the various sub-accounts that are there. If you know what you're doing, there are certain cases where you might. But we're going to have this production sub-account. That's where all active live courses will be. These other sub-accounts are for other features, other things that we're doing. For example, a sandbox where you will have course shells that you can use to build. We're going to have a templates sandbox or templates area, some training, and some play areas. All right, so I'm not going to change that. The term, don't change the term. That's something that should be set by IT when they build your course shell. If that remains functional, I don't know if it will, but so on. You have these abilities in your settings. Going back to settings. All right, so the next thing I want to look at is the sections. This is a feature that's different than Moodle. So sections allows the course shell to be cross-listed, like we think of as in JetNet. But instead of having IT do it, it looks like that functionality is here at the teacher level. I don't know if IT will keep that functionality, but be careful with that. If you click add a new section, that would create a new version of your class that could have a different enrollment, but it would use the same course shell as here, just like our cross-listed courses do. Navigation. This is the important one. Remember how I said that we've pre-configured Canvas to reduce the menu sets? This is where it's done at the course level. You have the power. You can change the order in which any of these items show up. You can do that yourself. You can also hide things. So if you're not going to be using Studio, or your students are going to use Studio, you can put it down here where it's hidden. If you want them to use Big Blue Button, you just drag it up here, choose where you want it to be in your menu. So you can configure your own menu. Google Drive. So some instructors use Google, most don't, but if you use it, drag it up in here and it will be available on the menu for students to use. So that's kind of a cool tool. Click Save. And we'll see now Google Drive, Big Blue Button, now they don't have little crossed out eyeball showing that they're going to be available to students. So that's navigation, very important feature. Apps are external tools. You can add those to your class. I have no idea how any of these work because I haven't played with them, but they are available. Some are installed, some are not installed. You can sort by that. Then you have feature options. I haven't played with this a lot, but those are options that configure various parts of your class. And integrations. Right now, there are no integrations available. Not sure if this is where we're going to see things like Cengage and McGraw-Hill, or if there's somewhere else, but that integrations is there. Haven't played with it enough to know anything about it. So what we've done in this long session is we've talked about Canvas and how to think about Canvas and how to move around in it. You've got your global menu, your course specific menu, your content area, variety of controls, some course specific tools. We've reviewed each of the menu options in the global menu. We reviewed or glossed over some of the things, tried to pay attention to the things that you need to know more about, and spent less time on those things which are not necessary for you to get going in Canvas right now, but maybe useful to you later. We've talked about how to create new stuff. We've talked about how to create assignments and so on. Last thing I want to do is show you, here is an unpublished module. See how the check mark isn't there? It's not published. That means it's hidden from students, and there's nothing in here. If I want to, I can click on this plus sign, and I can click on an assignment, add it to that module, as simple as that. I can also create an assignment or any other thing, for example, a quiz, choose one, or create one on the fly. Give it a name, add item. This is like adding a resource or an activity in Moodle. You just go to the module, you click on the plus sign, and you start building that module or unit or week or so on right there. Publish it, and then it will be available to students to see. And that's all there is that I really want to cover in today's session. Do we have any questions? I guess I should look at the chat. Or
Brian, I could go
Share
through the items that were in question on the document.
sure.
The list is quite long. If anyone wants to stay longer in order to go through the incomplete list, or I don't know what the group wants to do.
All right, and also, right now, while we're still recording, I can take any questions. You just unmute your microphone and ask a question. Try to restrict it to the basic stuff. It looks like there's some unbasic stuff in this list of things that we'll cover also. Anything at the basic level?
And I'm not sure if this is considered basic, but if we have, say, like 3 sections of the same class that are all the same, basically the same.
Yes.
I find that with JetNet, it's very difficult. You can't email everybody at once. You have to like cut and paste and post like 3 emails.
Right.
Is there a way to do that in Canvas, or?
I don't know the answer for sure. My suspicion, and maybe Sonia knows this because she knows a lot more about Canvas than I do. My suspicion is that we could use that sections tool that I talked about. And if I understand it correctly, which I may not, that would allow you to use one Canvas course shell for different sections. So you could, I think, send an announcement and send it to all sections in one operation rather than having to send that 3 times, or a message. Same thing if you wanted to update an assignment. To me, it looks like you can update it one time in the one shell and each section will see it. And the way I think conceptually this works is the shell is sort of abstracted from the participants. Each participant list, each section would see just just the members in that roster, in that shell, but it's the same shell. So you as the teacher are only having to manage one shell per semester, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes.
Can I respond to, I think it was Jenna's question about finding the student's navigator. You can do that right now I discovered this by accident. If you go to Jetstream and you click on the students, to go to your roster, click on your student's name, and then you get their complete profile. If you scroll down, the navigator's name is there. So it would be nice to have that more convenient, but just if you really want to know, you can find it in Jetstream in your through your roster.
Great, thank you so much. That
Yep.
has been an issue and I never know what to do with that.
Yeah, I go through, I have my sheets because I teach writing and I have a floating deadline thing for my essays. And so I have these sheets I make and I put the names of my roster in, and then right above the student's name, I put who their navigator is. So I only have to do that once. And then if I need to contact the navigator, it's right there. So, you know, if there was a way to do that maybe more globally, but you can do it. And I discovered that completely by accident. So
I would strongly recommend, if you don't already have some kind of getting to know you survey or something, adding a question about who your navigator is on the survey. It serves the purpose of obviously getting the information, but it also forces students to wrestle with that question of who is my navigator? Because if I had $1 for every time I've asked a student, you know, who's your navigator? And they're like, I don't know. But that's a good opportunity to get students to be a little proactive, and it can also gather that information for you, so you don't have to go looking it up. Because I love the ability to find it, but it is clunky to get to and then jump from one student to the next on that sheet.
All right, so I'm going through, I've made it down to many of the choices or many of the questions on the shared document. So I thank you, Sonia. I see that you've been responding in there. So everybody check that out. We'll continue to do that. I'm going to look through and see if there are any that we want to talk about before we close out.
A lot of them are syllabus related,
Yeah, I see that.
and there is an LTI question down below. You might want to talk about, it's the second to last comment.
When are we likely to know how publisher content will be integrated? Okay, so LTIs are being worked on right now by IT. Since Jay left, that work has frankly slowed down because IT is understaffed and they've got a lot of big projects going on right now.
Right?
They'll definitely be in
what
place.
LTI means real quick?
It's an integration tool. So an LTI is kind of programming speak for a program tool that connects our learning management system with a publisher's resource. So like My Math Lab, you have that ability to connect your JetNet class with Pearson My Math Lab, and it could bring the grades across and things like that. That LTI is the little gateway programming tool that connects the two different universes.
Does
Perfect.
that stand for learning technology integration?
Believe
Is
it
that what
does.
that means?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe it does.
Okay.
If we have questions about that, so for example, I'm looking at a new textbook with a different publisher and I'm a little bit nervous about
Yes.
how that'll work. Who do we ask about the integration?
So all of that work is to connect it. That's done by IT. So if, for example, you want to test out an integration, I hate to put this on IT, but it's something that they'll have to do. We have a beta version of Canvas, so it's not the public version. So what typically IT will want to do is, if they have a brand new LTI, they'll first install it in that beta version, because that beta version gets wiped out and refreshed periodically. So if an LTI causes problems, it doesn't hurt the real live classes or the real live Canvas iteration. So you would want to contact the Solution Center and say, I am exploring this publisher. They have an LTI. I would like to see if we could install it as a test so that I can play with it, see if it works, see if the publisher's content is what I need. And then if that works, then they'll want to install the LTI in the production version, the live version of our Canvas. So the short answer is that needs to go to IT through the Solution Center.
Okay, thank you.
So thinking for the summer courses, Brian and Sonia, it sounds like the LTI is close to being installed, but I mean, what, for example, I'm just going to use my physics class for an example. They had to jump onto a Pearson mastering physics, which really just meant clicking over to a new website. So there wasn't a whole lot of integration involved.
Yeah,
Am I likely to stick with that kind of format
yes, yeah,
for the summer?
that's just a URL, right? It's just a
Yeah.
link to another website. The LTI is only needed if there has to be communication between
Got
the
it.
canvas and the tool that you're going
That's what
to bring grades back and forth, so on.
that makes good sense. And I think right now the way it exists for certainly for the math courses is there's no communication between my math lab and JetNet. And that's kind of the way we've kept it previously so that we avoid the LTI headaches. So I think at least for the foreseeable future, it might be smart to just say, we'll stick with the way things were, and then we'll figure out if it's worth trying to do more integration. We can probably mess with that later. And so that's a big chunk of courses there, the math courses.
Very good.
There was a question on here, just to let everyone else know. Up at the top, it's, will we still have Camtasia and Respondus? Yes, we will.
Oh, so Respondus is still going to be a thing even on Canvas. Okay.
Yes. The difference between Canvas has an option for quizzes, and then they have an option for new quizzes, and new quizzes will not work with Respondus at this time. So we're going to stick with the normal quiz feature that they have. And the difference between the old and the new is the type of questions that are available. And there's maybe 3 that don't. There's over a dozen types of questions on the old and the new, and maybe 3 doesn't work on the old and 3 doesn't work on the new, but they're not the same type.
Right.
So,
And right now, there's no easy way to transfer question banks back and forth between them. Canvas is working on that feature. So at the advice of Canvas and other institutions that have been using Canvas for a while, they basically said use one or the other. And we're going to stick with the old quizzes until the new quizzes are fully released, which they expect to happen in 2024 or so.
yeah, they're in beta format right now for the new quizzes.
So just to be clear, similar to Moodle, there is no such thing as an examination in Canvas, correct?
Right, it's a quiz.
I love this. This is a who's on first kind of situation, having this discussion with people. It's like, okay, but if I want to call them exams, I can't, right?
Sure, you can name it as an exam, but it's still a quiz.
Okay,
So
but does it show up on like their grade book as, is the category name going to change and all that stuff? Or?
you have control over that. So think
Okay.
of it this way, the tool is a quiz. If you hide this tool from students, they'll never see quiz so much. When they go to grades and so on, they will see the name of the quiz. So if you want to call your quiz exam 1, they're going to see exam 1. See here, I wrote syllabus quiz. If I edit that and I change that to syllabus exam, to save, and go back to the grades. So now they will see syllabus exam. So you can name it exam or Fred or Charlie, whatever you want, and that's what students will see. But for you, you have to know that the tool that you're using is the quiz.
So Brian, I'm still a little confused between the assignments and the quizzes buttons.
Yeah.
You see, there's both. And
Right.
like in JetNet, the way we have it is you go and you can click on assignments and it'll show you all the assignments.
Yes.
But then sometimes students don't look at the quizzes and then they miss a bunch of stuff.
Right.
So like how, I guess I don't understand it.
Okay, so let me start with first recommendation. Keep quizzes hidden, keep assignments hidden from students. They will never need to go into assignments. They should access everything through either the module, their calendar, or your syllabus. Those are the three ways that it's recommended in Canvas that students access any assignment, quiz, discussion, etc. Not with these tools. Now, some people use it that way. They make discussions visible and so on, but it's not recommended. So that's the first thing I would say. The second way is, I find this a little confusing also, because in Canvas, they have taken what I think of as grade book setup tools and methods and brought them into assignments. So when I think of Canvas, I think everything is an assignment, and here's why. See, I'm looking at assignments right now.
Yeah.
This assignment has,
Wait, are you?
I am, yeah. So I click on assignments. Sorry, I wasn't. I click on assignments, and now you see in assignments, I see not only assignments, but I also see quizzes. They're there. So in Canvas, everything is, in my mind, I associate it as, it's all found in assignments, because they pulled the grouping, what we think of as categories in JetNet, they pulled that into assignments. So if I want to weight my grades, or if I want to group my grades in some way, I have to do that here in assignments. I cannot do it in the grade book. I have to do it in assignments. So if I want to create a category for grade weighting, like here group, I would put my exams. I would create an exam category. I hit save. So now down here at the bottom, here is my exams category. And I could put all of my exams in here just by dragging them. Or I can click on this plus sign and I can create a new assignment, discussion, quiz, external, etc. in that group in the assignment tool. So for me, it's also weird. It's because it's not an it's not just an assignment like we think of an assignment in JetNet. It's assignments like we think of in JetNet, plus everything else is brought in here. Everything is aggregated under assignments in the groupings that you create and so on. I don't know if that's clear, but
So does that mean that you could have,
assignments are quizzes and everything else, but quizzes aren't necessarily all the assignments.
correct. Yes, exactly. All quizzes are seen in as assignments, but not all assignments are quizzes, and not all quizzes are. Yeah, I think you've got it.
I think
So
a Venn
here-
diagram would be helpful.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. As a handout for kind of visualizing this, I think it would be helpful. And the other thing to consider would be, you can have, and it, from what I am understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you can have part of an exam, or have an exam, quote unquote, an exam that's actually a discussion, or you could have an exam that is, I mean, however you decide to kind of define the category, you can have items in that category that belong to all different types of
Correct.
assignments. Right?
You can create this exams category,
Yeah.
and you can have a quiz using the quiz tool in there, but you could also say, I want to make a paper that they have to submit. So in my exam, so this is my exam 2 or 3 or whatever, and give it some points. But really, I'm using the assignment tool to create an exam. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can create this category called exams. I could also call this category Fred, because it's not really a tool. It is just a name, but I can use anything in here. I'm in assignments, right? I'm looking at assignments, but it's not just the assignment tool that I'm looking at. It is all possible graded things.
You said before, Brian, that you can kind of weight these things differently.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if class participation and tasks, you've given them a bunch of points for it, but you could actually take that whole group and say, I want this whole thing to only be 10% of the grade.
Correct.
Is that right?
So-
I've never really done that. I've always done it by my use of how many points.
Yeah,
You know,
and
and
that's
then you end
normal.
up with like 2 points for an assignment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and so there are two kinds of weighting. There's natural weighting, and then there's adjusted weighting, unnatural weighting. So natural weighting is just what you described. You vary the points so that the assignments, the quizzes, anything that you want to count more towards the grade, the final grade, is more points. So your final exam could be 100,000 points if you wanted it to be. And you could have assignments worth only 10 points. The 10
Right.
points would affect the final grade much less than the 100,000 points. In an artificial weighting, you would go and create your assignment groups. In JetNet, we created categories. And then you click on the three buttons here, and you click on the assignment groups weight. You tell it you want to weight the final grade based on assignment groups, and then you can do the percentages. So this is going to be 10%, 10%, not 100, 10%, 10%, 10%. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And my final two categories, I'll make 25% each. And now I have effectively weighted these categories. So this is going to calculate a grade for all of these, and it's going to multiply it by its weighting and then divide by 100 in order to achieve the weighting. So that my last two things, these two items together will account for 25% of the entire final grade. That's an artificial weighting system. In your system, you would make new quiz and exam quiz too 12.5% of the total points possible in order to
Right.
achieve the same result.
Right.
Brian, there was one more comment that might help explain quite a bit here. It's up at the top, it says, I have noticed that a lot of the stuff we are required to have or to add to our syllabus is now sort of already in the Canvas shells. What does this mean to our conventional syllabus?
It's unclear to me exactly how we're going to resolve that. And part of what is required in the syllabus, we may put into the Canvas syllabus. But the problem that we have is we always essentially create a static version of the syllabus and upload it to the syllabus archive. That problem has not been solved. So there are two ways I could see doing it. You can have the syllabus in Canvas hidden, never available to students. And then we put in instead the usual flat file, the static file, which is the syllabus. That's the version that we're going to upload. And we would never let students see the syllabus tool in Canvas. The other way to deal with it is we make the syllabus tool always visible to students. We put all of the usual stuff into our syllabi that we do now, along with the dynamically generated content like assignments and due dates and so on. And then we find another tool, a paid service that would be able to harvest the Canvas syllabus as it exists in Canvas and creates a static version for that archive. That's something that Karen is looking at, Karen Hoffner.
So can I jump in here? Because I've actually been thinking about this quite a lot as I've been looking at other like examples and templates, and I've been sort of searching around trying to find, the one.
Right.
And what I've seen in places is, Brian, can you go to the syllabus page real quick, your syllabus page? So what I've seen some people do is they have this part right here, but then you see at the top where it says course syllabus, in there they have a bunch of links like, course policies, grading scale, and they're actually like links that you jump to. I don't know where they are, but they're different things for each of those sort of categories that we normally have. Now, this doesn't help with the, we need something to give to other institutions, but it seems to me that Oh, yeah, there we go. Oop,
Yeah.
I wish I had watched that a little more carefully. But it seems to me that most of what we need to give to another institution is not all the, you know, policy
Dynamic stuff.
about academic honesty and, you know, like so much of my syllabus is just, you know, CYA kind of crap.
Right, yeah.
What the students actually need is like basically the learning objectives of what's covered in the class. Like most of the time, people don't even look at when the due dates are.
Of course, right.
That isn't necessary to transfer credit. What's necessary is that we have a document that covers what are our learning objectives, what are they supposed to be learning, what are the whatever, a list of things that they're supposed to learn. And I feel like that could be, that doesn't change based on semester or based on, okay, well, this semester I've changed my weighting of this, that, or the other.
Right.
So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, and that's something I know that I've talked to Karen about myself, just as an aside, and that is, do we actually have to have a new syllabus every term available, or is the syllabus standardizable enough that you could do one per year?
Right. So it's
And make
interesting.
that-
So my daughter uses Canvas at her university, and I asked her if I could look through her courses and her friends' courses. So I got, you know, a kind of an interesting overview of
Yeah.
how little her instructors actually spend on their on their course shells. But pretty much none of them have that static syllabus. None of them provide like a PDF of
Right.
like we do currently. They're
Right.
all using this dynamic syllabus, and then they have sort of the CYA stuff linked in there. So
Right, yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of that, because it is standardized across the campus,
right,
like you said, you can make it a link. Everybody's link is the same,
right.
and you don't have to have pages and pages of that CYA language.
Because none
that-
of the students even look at it until like they have a academic complaint.
Right, exactly. All right. Any other questions that we should address now before we sign off?
Oh, I did have one more, and this is more of
Okay.
a just how is this going to work kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like in the summer, when some people have Canvas and some people have Moodle,
Yes.
how are the students going to manage that? Like, what's that going to look like for them?
So for the summer, we are going to create a Moodle shell for every course. And in the Moodle shell, for those few courses that are going to be in Canvas, there will be a link from Moodle into Canvas. So students will first go into Moodle, and then they will, if they have not already been told, they'll say, hey, your class is not going to be in JetNet. It's going to be in this new thing called Canvas. Click here to go to your class. That will take them then to Canvas. That's how I understand we're going to handle summer. In the fall, when people have the option to choose one or the other, my understanding is that the thinking right now is to provide a link to Canvas and JetNet on the home page. And students will have to know. I don't know if it's decision has been made about whether or not we will create a JetNet shell with a link. I suspect we will for the fall classes as well.
The navigators will also communicate this through email and through phone calls.
So once they go into JetNet and they take that link or they click that link, is that something that they can bookmark and then go directly to Canvas next time, or do they have
Yeah.
to go to JetNet every time?
No, they could bookmark that and go directly into Canvas.
Okay.
And Canvas uses single sign-on. So as long as they're using the same browser, it should, in theory, bring them right into Canvas without another login. In theory, I haven't tested it.
Do you know if we're going to call Canvas JetNet eventually, or
I
is
don't
it?
think we are.
Okay.
I think it will be called something different. What that thing is, I do not know.
Huh, okay. Yeah, because I was going to say that sounds like it would get confusing.
Anything else?
Thank you very much. This was helpful.
Well, thank you very much for attending and for everyone else. And if there are further questions, Sonia and I will continue to monitor that shared document for most of the day off and on. you can look there for any additional answers. If you have something specific you need help with, email us directly.
Thank you both.